So there comes a point in the healing journey when the question begins to change. In the beginning, the question might have simply been, how do I survive this? How do I live with what happened to me? How do I manage the memories, the emotions, the relationship, maybe the anger or the shame? And sometimes maybe it's just the exhaustion of carrying a story that you never really asked for. And you know what? Surviving does matter. But sometimes surviving, we think of it as the victory. But what happens after that? What happens when you've done some of the work, when you've learned some things about yourself, when you've found ways to cope, to heal, and to rebuild? So does thriving mean that the trauma no longer affects you? Does it mean you finally put the past behind you? Does it mean that now you're happy all the time, your relationships are healthy, you've figured yourself out, and life somehow just becomes easier? I think that might not be what thriving always looks like. Maybe thriving is much less polished than that. Maybe it's being able to laugh while still carrying the scars. Maybe it's discovering your voice after spending years believing that it didn't matter. Maybe it's creating music. Maybe it's becoming the father or helping somebody else, setting a boundary, or getting through a difficult day without abandoning yourself. Maybe thriving isn't the absence of struggle at all, but maybe it's discovering that the struggle no longer gets to decide the entire direction of your life. About several years ago, I had a conversation on this podcast show with someone who understands, I'm going to say, that journey personally, and that was Michael Skinner. He's a survivor of childhood trauma, just like the rest of us. But he's also a father, a professional musician, a mental health advocate, a speaker, and someone who has spent years helping other survivors, families to better understand trauma, not simply from what he studied, but from what he actually lived. Now, several years has actually passed since I've had an opportunity to sit down with Michael. And so that makes me a little bit curious, not just about where he's been, but what has he learned? What has changed for him? What hasn't? And what thriving looks like for him now. Because, maybe that's the conversation we don't have very often. We talk a lot about surviving the sexual abuse. But today with Michael, he and I, we're going to talk about maybe what comes next. Because what does thriving actually look like after the sexual abuse? So welcome to Unbroken, a safe place for male survivor podcast, because every male survivor deserves hope, healing, support, and a BMW. And here's your male survivor, leadership coach, and hypnotherapist, Thomas Edward. All right, my peeps, welcome. It is another Thursday morning. And here we are, of course, coming to you live from Sacramento, California. And you know what? So this week, we're supposed to be in the low 100s. So I'm excited. I'm happy because the low 100s, and it seems like the whole world is burning wherever, right? And what is so interesting, I am now inserting this in from the original podcast. So I was talking about the world is burning, right? And so I did the interview, and then I get a knock at the door, and there's a lady who just happened to be on her walk that morning, and the neighbor's next door house is burning, right? So now the firemen are coming, knocking on my door, trying to get me out, to evacuate all those different type of things to make sure that I am safe. So sorry for this being even more later than it usually is, but that's, life happens. And here in California, things for them, it was the electric panel, which just happens to be on the outside, and the sun just beats down on it and it just whoosh, right, it went up. So, but fortunately we were able to catch it early enough. So, only part of the garage inside of the house, whatever, are burned. And, this is one thing I want to say. If you don't know your neighbors, you really get to know your neighbors. And I know we live in a world where we all kind of isolate ourselves, but I was just so thankful at that moment that I have, my neighbors, cell phone numbers. And so I could quickly call them at work and say, hey, just to let you know, your house is burning. You might want to calm the husband and the wife. And so I'm just thinking about, the people that are on my street and, that I actually know their names. I know them. We do things, whatever, together. And it's not like that everywhere. But the reality is that you have to create that if you want that. All right, so we'll get back to it. Like I said, I'm just inserting this in just to let you know why it's late. For me, it's almost 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And of course, I usually do this around 6 o'clock on Thursday morning. So that's the reason it's a little bit late for those maybe that were actually waiting, like, when is T-Bone going to release today's podcast? All right. So, right now he is not exactly one of our friends. So I'm just so happy when it actually cools down a little bit. So what's going on with me this morning? Just the updates. Hey guys, I'm not doing any sourdough bread this morning. You guys know that usually Thursdays for me are the day that I cook my sourdough bread. But today I'm doing chicken broth. All right. So in the background, so what I do is, okay, you guys know how frugal I am. So, you get those Costco chickens, whatever, the rotisserie. And then it's like what you do, you just save the bones, right? And so then what you do when you get enough of them, you cook them down and you have your own chicken stock, chicken broth, and then you use that for your different recipes. Now, those of you that have been to the workshop know that I used to be a chef. And so you guys know I'm somewhat of a foodie, right? And so when I cook, I'm making my own stuff from scratch because I think that it tastes better, right? So that's what's kind of going on in the background. So when Michael's on, if he's talking and I have to get up and run, it means I'm just going to check on the chicken broth to make sure it's not boiling over. Let's see. We're starting the second garden. The heat pretty much took care of the first one. So I'm starting my little hydroponic stuff on the inside. That way I don't have to worry about if the lettuce out there is contaminated or not because I'm growing my own. But the new thing now is sugar ants. Sugar ants are coming into the house. And, I'm telling one of these people, live and let live. Like, so even the black widow spiders around the house, I don't mess with them as long as they're not inside the house, right? And so if you guys got any suggestion on taking care of sugar ants, kind of a nice whatever anti or humane way, please let me know. This morning's blog just dropped. So if you go up to the website and click on blog, you'll see today's blog that was released. And then coming in September, so this is for my birthday, which is coming up soon, you get another gift from me, and that's more content. So I'm going to start putting stuff on Substack, right? So that's another thing. Go up there to the website, click on the little medias there at the bottom if you want to actually subscribe to the Substack. Now, guys, I get quite a few requests to be on this show. And oftentimes it's from people who have, I'm going to say, nothing to do with the subject matter. And it's kind of one of my pet peeves, right? So I'm very selective, even on the website when someone asks me, hey, will you sponsor? Will you share their information? But I'm like, but you're not even willing to reciprocate what you're asking me. So I kind of guard this space, I'm going to say, with tenacity, because to me, this is a special audience. And I want to make sure that we're addressing the issues that you guys, that you write to me about, that you send me emails about, that you are actually experiencing. And so what I'm going to do, we're going to give Michael a call because I think Michael will be the great person to come in. All right, Michael, are you there?
I am here, sir.
All right. I love that little sound effect I always use. Just makes it feel like I'm actually calling someone.
But now I wish I had my own private jet and that I wasn't on the East Coast. I'd be at your house to have some of that sourdough bread and dip it in the chicken broth.
Oh,
I'm,
yes.
I'm tasting that.
Yes. I don't know, dude. I think we have to try to get you to maybe one of the workshops and you can do some presenting or something, and then you can be here with the guys. And
all right. That would be great.
yeah. No, let's see if we can actually make that a possibility. So,
Excellent.
So Michael, this is kind of about you and us and all of us. And so it's been a while, but first of all, just share us a little bit about, your story, your abuse story, kind of how it started out. And then we'll talk more about the surviving and thriving.
Well, my abuse, and it was sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. And my two main perpetrators were both of my parents. So that made for a very unhappy childhood, but a very difficult childhood. Yeah. And they were both physically abusive, as was emotionally. There was no support. And he was a active, raging, violent alcoholic, so that added to the mix. And to compound the abuse that would take place in the home, they had no problem. See, I used to use the words, they'd pawn me off to others.
Oh, I can relate to that.
So, but it was years later, I was doing some speaking and a journalist reached out to me to speak at a trafficking conference, Thomas, and I said, well, why are you asking me to speak at this? This sounds like a great event. And she says, Michael, you were trafficked. Your parents trafficked. And she started, and Thomas, it felt like a sucker punch to the gut. Here I am, I'm an adult now, and I'd never thought of myself as a trafficked survivor. Yeah. So that's the backstory. So life with them was not fun. But the surviving piece, which is why we're here, I'm here and grateful to be here. One of my great escapes, and still is, was music. Mm-hmm. I just loved listening to music. And fortunately, I was born in Boston, lived there and in Cambridge, Massachusetts for the first 6 years of my life. And so it originally I lived in the projects. I didn't know what projects meant as a little kid, but that's where I lived. But one of my neighbors, my friends, his dad was a carpenter, but he also played guitar and sang all the country western songs. So I was just mesmerized just listening to this man. So that was, and it was giving hope and ideas of, boy, I'd love to play the guitar and sing. And then next thing I know, we were living in Billerica, Massachusetts, which is just outside of Cambridge and Boston. And this was the suburbs. And we actually had a nice home, a nice piece of land. And across the street was a huge forest with brooks, streams, ponds, fields. I mean, it was nature's paradise. So I not only had the listening to music, now I had nature.
So, Michael, is that how you survived the childhood part of it?
That is how I survived, was the listening to music.
Yeah.
That escapism and being in nature, because that was, all kids like to build tree forts and everything else, and little bridges across streams. But I'd spend my day there. So that was, and it was a place for me to have some hopes and dreams. But at that point, as a young boy, all I wanted to do was go into the military. That was my mindset. So, and because of everything, I kept to myself. So I was an easy target for the bullies as a young boy. So going to school, because I looked different than, obviously, well, not obviously, you'd see pictures of me back then, and I looked like the scared little kid. So I was the easy target for the bullies to be picking on me, and all I wanted to do. So I'm going to school, and I have no safe place. So the surviving was listening to music, Thomas. And the nature, and I dissociated a lot.
Yeah.
I floated away a lot. So I enjoy playing with my toys, trucks, little soldiers. My siblings and I, I was the oldest of five, but my brother David and I were close for many years. Then we drifted apart, which I see happens to a lot of childhood siblings who've been abused.
So you're the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest.
Okay, and
Of five.
of five. Now, is the abuse stopping with you?
No, because well, in terms of my family, my own family later on, but all of my siblings experienced it. And as I said, the oldest of five. So two of my brothers sadly were lost to suicide.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting my brother David, the second oldest, the one who I hung out with and stuff, and visiting him at the VA, and just, and after he had had his first attempt while he was serving in the Air Force, and I said, David, please, and he says, Michael, there's some things you can't forgive yourself for, and I just said to him, David, we were just kids.
Yeah.
But so. Then later on, probably like 10 years later, my brother Danny was lost to it. So it impacted the family dynamics big time. So, but surviving, what happened at the ripe old age of 9, just before I was turned 10, was that magical moment of seeing the Beatles appear on the Ed Sullivan Show, Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
And I was transformed, because up until that point, I was going into the military. I was going to go to West Point. I wanted to join the Rangers and then the Green Beret. I had it all. And my plan was to then come back and get rid of abusers.
Yeah.
With all those skill sets.
It's interesting when you say that, the Ed Sullivan Show, and, maybe because of our age, people don't really realize, I'm going to say, the cultural influence that he had. Even from the perspective of actually being like one of the first people to allow like black people to actually be in the entertainment, right? That's what I think of. That's what I remember. And I think about, that influence and the impact that just that show made on a culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it was huge. So I saw them, and then I wanted to be a musician. So,
whoa. Okay.
There's a lot more to that, how I got to that point, but
sure, share it with us. Share it with us.
Oh, okay.
Give us everything you got.
Well, this was I kept to myself. So
yeah,
I all of a sudden just something overcame. I was just bursting with excitement seeing them, because they were just like, wow.
Yeah.
And I just shouted out, I want to be like the Beatles. I want to play the guitar and sing and play to people.
Yeah.
It was an unnormal experience for me. It wasn't normal, because normally I just kept to myself amongst my parents. But immediately his was everything he said about me was preceded by the F-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
You're stupid, you're worthless, you're lazy, you'll never amount to anything. And the woman claiming to be my mother said, who do you think you are? You can't do that. And I'm like, I couldn't. I wanted to be swallowed up by the couch.
Yeah.
So that crushed any thought of me being a musician by what they said.
Yeah.
But here's the beauty, because I had this little transistor radio, and I was always tapping along to songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I can anticipate the drum roll. I was in time. I have perfect timing. That as a drummer, that's great for a band. It's great for me as a drummer. I could, in the anticipation, all of that, and I had that aha moment. I can be a drummer.
Yeah.
So now Ringo Starr and all the drummers of the day, even the drummer on Johnny Carson. I love listening to marching band. I listened to whether I loved rock and roll, the oldies. And then Motown came on. I loved all that. So I listened to everything. I listened to jazz. I wanted to learn everything, all of those. And that's how I got to join the band. I joined the neighborhood band at 12 years old and started gigging at 12 years old at teen centers, parties, junior high dances. We were a 3-piece band. they'd pay us 50 to $75, sometimes $125. That was huge money for us.
Yeah.
We were rich. We were rock stars. We were on our way. So that band then morphed into a really good band. It was myself and the guitar player that stayed. His brother left, and two other dear friends of mine joined the band. The bass player, Chris, who's still my best friend to this day.
Yeah.
So I've known him since I was 12 years old. 13. That's when he joined the band. He was 12. I was 13. And that band just became really good. So soon that was how I made a living as a drummer in a rock band. And I see your Big Ben in the telephone. I got to tour Great Britain for 2 years with a band. And you speak of surviving and learning to thrive a little bit. My going overseas was one of the best things for me, not only as a musician and furthering my career, but Thomas, it was the first time in my life that I felt safe.
Yeah.
I had the Atlantic Ocean separating me from the abusers.
Yeah.
And I used to go to this little bluff, it was a tall bluff, overlooking, I think it was the Irish Sea. And I'd just sit there and look out, the waves coming in, and it was the first time I felt at peace, and I could really be creative. I thrived, all that. So that's where, learning, I didn't have the mindset at 21 to connect the dots. Well, trauma, you need to be safely away and all the rest. I hadn't learned all that yet, but I just knew intrinsically that I feel good over here. I was happy. So
what I love about your story is, and even just, I can see him, right? Because we're here, and I can see, the excitement, the transformation in your eyes. But it's like, what I notice is that you found out what touches your soul, which is the music, the rhythm, right? And that a lot of people don't have that opportunity, or they never get to that point. And it's just so cool that even at an early age, you realize like that's part of who you were, right? And so, a lot of times when I'm working with individuals and we're going back, I'm like, well, who were you before whatever the abuse? And they don't know, because the abuse has just covered up so much stuff. But then to find that little nugget, like, if you can picture yourself, when were you the happiest and what was going on? And you start finding out like, oh, okay, so that's kind of what touches that person. It's like when I hear that in you, it's like that moment of, oh, that's it. And I hope that he can use that. And it looks like you did.
I made a career as a drummer.
Yeah.
I would call it a working class career. I didn't achieve riches. The band made a lot of money, but it also went to sound and lighting. We had a 3-man road crew, trucks, all. So yeah, it looked good on you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you had a paycheck. But for many years, I supported a stay-at-home wife with 3 kids, and I bought a home as a musician. Wow. So I was so excited. Again, it wasn't wealthy. I was a working-class musician, if that makes sense, so people can understand that. I went into the music business representing other bands, and then I made a lot of money, but I still performed on the weekends as a weekend warrior, just loving it. So music has been, and just, listening to music, as I said, and this was odd about my parents, because as cruel as they were, they had an incredible record collection. So I grew up, they were both racist as can be. I didn't want to be like them, but they had Nat King Cole records, Chubby they loved all the music. So I was listening to all that, because I'd listen to his voice or the others. I'm like, wow, how do they do that? Because that was just such beautiful voices. So my parents were odd. They had all the nasty words, but yet they loved the music.
Yeah. It's always like that.
It's
give me back that taco.
It was them, not me. But but that helped me, because I was listening to everything and anybody.
Yeah, that's great. So when you think about, like, okay, as we talk about, thriving for you, so does that mean that, the trauma no longer affects you, or is it just something different when you think about it?
When we first connected again a few weeks ago, and I thought about that. For me, the thriving, because that's what I've worked so hard at, because
Hmm.
I did learn to survive, but I wanted more than that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just get through the day. So for me, thriving now, I have joy, I have peace, I have safety, I have love in my life.
Hmm.
Um, I have a partner. She doesn't. I'm grateful she grew up in a home that didn't have these
Yeah.
things. So it's a learning curve for her, but there's love. I have the love and support of my two oldest daughters. I have that friend Chris
Hmm.
since I was 13. His family, I saw all four of his kids, born, when they were little, all to their young adults and their kids now. And my friends, I've learned to cut out toxic people. I learned a lot about myself in being drawn to partners that were emotionally unavailable.
Yeah.
They could be good, wonderful people, wonderful
Yeah.
women, but they were emotionally unavailable, and a lot of times it was their own trauma that they still didn't want to work at.
Yeah.
It was always, oh, you need to work on your stuff. Well, we all need to work on our stuff. So thriving in that sense, learning to be at peace with myself. As you know, I wrote a book. It was published in April. That was a long, difficult process,
Mm.
and many times I didn't want to finish it because it just brought up so much. But here's the beauty of thriving. Whereas before, things would trigger, come up, wash over me. I'd just isolate and I'd stay in my house.
Yeah.
Now I go out. Now I go for a walk. I'll get on that bike. I'll listen to music. I'll go for a walk. Even something as simple as make a cup of coffee and go sit in my backyard and look at the forest,
Hmm.
watch the bees or the birds, whatever, just to get through it. So the I still have emotional triggers and flashbacks in the sense of anniversaries and things will wash over me. Like if it's my brother's birthday or other people's that were important to me, anniversaries. But that's the key is I'm not knocked down by it. It makes me sad a little bit, but I can still I can still go out and meet with friends. I'm not going to cancel anything. I'm
Yeah.
going to if I had an appointment to meet with someone, I'm okay. So
It's
I
interesting
find
how we.
medical appointments is those were always hard for me because the invasive procedures, and I remember it because part of my abuse, they used to take pictures,
Wow.
and I only have snippets, but I remember there were other children there, so we were all, no clothes on, but so anytime I had MRIs or X-rays, Thomas, I'd go home and I'd just be wiped out, and I was done for the day.
Yeah.
I'd have to watch a movie just to veg. Now, I came home from the dentist the other day, and it was like, yeah, and I could feel it, but I worked it out, and I went for a walk, had a cup of coffee, and I I got through it. It was still there, but it doesn't cripple me, doesn't knock me down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So
It's
even
there.
the dwell time is less. Now I still, because my father was one of my abusers. I had like 9. And so I still once in a while, and it depends on what's going on, I'll have the dreams, right? And in the dreams, I am just so angry. I mean, it's just rage. And I wake up in rage, but I have to tell myself, okay, but he's no longer here. That's not, and so I have to, bring myself whatever back down. And then I have to like, okay, so what's going on, that's actually triggering me, whatever, to have the dreams, the flashback, those different type of things. Now, before that would throw me off 3 or 4 days, right? Now it's like, okay, the dream, okay, it's not here today, blah, 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 right? No need to hold on to the anger, the rage route. Okay, and then I'm okay, right? But it still comes up. Yeah, yeah,
Anytime I've done presentations, regardless of where it is. I share that because people will ask questions. So it's always going to be with us. But as you said, it's not knocking you down for those 3 or 4 days. And that's what I find. It may be a few hours, it may just be an hour, but I'm able to bounce back. And that's huge for me.
Yeah.
And again, learning everything I could and can about trauma and its impact and abuse. And I'm still learning. I'm like a sponge.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be one of those statistics, where we die 10 to 20 years earlier. I didn't. And I know I see the results of the ACE study and all the other ones that they've had on. I didn't want the heart disease. I didn't want diabetes. I don't want to get cancer. No one does. But when you realize that the trauma that you have can help get that going,
Right.
I do everything I can to mitigate that. I eat as healthy as I can. I still like ice cream
And sourdough bread.
and sourdough bread with a lot of butter.
Yeah. Well, now they're saying that butter's okay for you because of the butyric
know.
acid. So I'm like, okay, put that back on the list.
Oh, I like to cook. I like to cook as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself a chef, but I'm a creative cook, and I find that's another thing, a coping skill, Tom. Anytime I came back from presenting in a conference, I would be making all these big meals, and I'm
Yes.
thinking, I live by myself.
Yes. No, I do. It's actually part of my therapy. And so I'll cook and just invite people over, right? And just have them sit down and eat it.
So I share it. I'll bring it over to neighbors. My second oldest daughter, she comes over once a week and we play music together. But that's the big thing. I make supper for us.
Yeah.
My other daughter's in California, so we can't do that.
Ah, okay. What area is she in?
She's in L.A.
Okay. So she's about 8 hours from me. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a height. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go visit her in October with my girlfriend. But
Okay. Excellent. Well, if you're in the area a couple of days, feel free to stop by. We can hang out a little or whatever. Or I can meet you
That would be cool.
or I can meet you somewhere. That sounds good.
that is one thing about California. It's a long big state.
Yeah. It is. It is quite long. So one thing that you said, which just kind of hit me here when you said getting rid of the toxic people in your life. Share with me a little bit about that. Like, who were they? How did you get rid of those toxic people?
Well, there was some. This took me many years to work through, and I share it as best I can in the book that after my divorce, it took me a while to get into the dating thing, scene again, but and I just was with so many different women, but what I found was I would push away nice people. I didn't know what that was. I was I don't know if I'd say uncomfortable with it, maybe, but it didn't make sense. So as much as I did not want to be with anyone like my parents, in a way, I was being drawn to the emotionally unavailable. They weren't physically abusive. Some were emotionally abusive with the cutting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I had so much physical abuse. It's like, well, words do hurt.
Right. Yeah.
I would stay engaged with that. And also people that I thought were my friends or fellow advocates in the arena. That's something I think sometimes people don't want to talk about, but in the trauma, abuse, and mental health arena, there's some folks out there, doing some good things, raising awareness, but they're very cruel to their peers behind the scenes.
Yes.
And that was a big, huge learning curve for me. I was like, whoa. So learning to disengage from them, because when I'd meet them, I'd learn, I've always believed, like in a band, you can do more with a group of people.
Right.
So it's the same thing with advocates. If there's more of us, but Thomas, some of them were toxic as hell. And whether it was in the mental health arena, those addressing child abuse, whatever, or neglect, and those addressing sexual abuse. I mean, there was some nasty people, but yet they have these nice profiles.
Yeah, I know.
If that makes sense. So
no, that's why I said I'm selective who I bring on the show, right? Because I'm like, oh, these people are just trying to use me. Well, I've had enough of that, right? So,
right, and it's right. So I'm mindful of that myself if I'm reaching out to someone, to an organ, to present, because I want it to be a two-way thing. Obviously, there's a little selfishness on my part. Of course, I want to present, but it's I do give. I stay and I engage with people, and that's what people used to comment and compliment me on, whether it was a keynote or a workshop. I just didn't disappear. I hung around. So long after the Q&A, I'm right there, and even in the dinner time or lunchtime, I'd just go sit down at a table and just meet people.
Yeah.
So that's another piece of thriving, Thomas, for me. Yeah. It wasn't that I didn't want to sit with people. I didn't feel worthy. So I'd isolate. So that snippet just came up. So so toxic people, there was some females in my life that I thought were going to be good for me. Then hindsight is 20/20. I realized no, and I pushed away some wonderful ladies. I actually reached out to one just before the book came out to apologize to her, and she said, "Michael, there's no need to apologize. You were hurt. You were hurting. I understand." So that just made me feel better. I didn't hurt them over it, but I hurt them by, walking away.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's different for different people. So it's kind of learning and unlearning stuff. So for me, I had to learn to not smother people. Right. So that was for me because it was about acceptance and belonging. Right. But once you pass a certain line, it becomes too much. Right. That type of deal. So then what do you feel what were some of the things maybe you had to unlearn, I'm going to say, in order to kind of build the life that you have now?
When you asked earlier on surviving, so as a little boy, I was always working. I started working. I'd go shovel driveways, raking, mowing lawns, all that stuff. One was to get money because, my father would only give X amount of money to buy clothes. So I was tired of going to school with, the kids teasing you at the high waters. By the age of 10 years old, I'm buying my own clothes.
Yeah. Wow.
I just didn't want to I wanted to take away one more element of being teased.
Right.
So I've always worked, but it became extreme. So later in life, that was my coping skill, was a workaholic. And as a musician, I nonstop working, practicing. Everything was always what to do to get the band to the next stage. So I was always go, 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 go. Then when I was in the business end, and I can look back, now I have a family, daughters that I love, and a wife that I loved, a nice home, all the rest of that. And I provided for them, and I would be with them at times. We'd go on vacation stuff, but Thomas, I was always going away on business trips. Because the music business is so competitive.
Yeah.
But I was driven. I couldn't sit still long. So remember we were talking about when things would wash over us?
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was going on back then. Something was coming up. So it was very easy for me to get in my car and drive to Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
From Massachusetts. Wow. Or take a train. I got to go to New York City. And I did do work in New York City. No, I really didn't have to, but I'm going to find you.
Right.
So, even because I did so much work in New England and New York, I was always, and New York is a big state. New England, spread out. I was driving all over, and the bands are playing there. I've already booked all these dates, but it was just, so it was legitimate excuse. It looked good on paper. Oh, he's going out, and I was.
Yeah.
I just kept making the business more profitable and doing more for the bands, et cetera, et cetera. But I was just running.
Yeah.
I was running.
So it's
I'm
almost
still
like
a hard.
it's like being a workaholic was almost your way of dissociating.
Yes, and
Yeah.
so I'm still a hard worker, but I've learned to take breaks.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't get done, it's okay. I'll get to it next week.
Now, let me tell you, that's a hard one. I still have a hard time with that one. You know, it's like, even if you go on vacation, to actually rest, you know, as opposed to like, I'm always doing something. That also comes from my dad. He was a military, right? So he was,
Okay.
he'd tell you the type of person, if you're not up by, 4 a.m. doing something, you're never going to amount to anything, type of business. So I've got that on the inside, but then also on the, just your worth and those different type of things. And so even today I have to try, like, okay, let me just actually take some time and just relax, enjoy. Of course, I love nature because I love to cook, gardening, those different type of things. So, now I can kind of walk out in the backyard and look at the fruit trees and stuff in the pots and just kind of just calm myself and just take a breath of air and Shabbat, as we say. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So when you think about, I'm going to say, how has let's say over the years, your definition of healing changed, as you've gotten more experience, more seasoned years?
What was repeat that, please?
So when you think about your definition of like healing, has it changed, as you've progressed?
Yes, I feel whole now.
Mm.
And I learned to forgive myself, okay, for the things that I did, the actions that I did. Yeah, I've apologized to my daughters for the workaholic and dad, but they would be but you always brought us home great gifts, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah. They looked at it from a different perspective.
yeah. Oh, what's dad bringing home?
Yeah.
Because make a big deal of what's in the suitcase. So, anyways, I just lost my train.
But I think that's important because when I'm dealing with and I'm one of those people too. It's like sometimes the hard part of the healing, and this is when I'm working with guys, is I say not just forgiving yourself, let's just say for the acting out and behavior, but actually celebrating it, because that's what kept you alive to get to the point to where you could actually work on stuff, right? And I know, like, yes, it's functional, it's all over, and I'm sleeping with anything that moves and whatever and doing this, but I'm like, that kept me alive till I got to the point where I could find the place to start healing or someone to help me start healing.
And forgiving myself for me was the promiscuity, but and learning, and I've shared this at presentations starting a few decades ago. I just realized I just wanted a hug.
Yeah.
And as healing progressed, I realized I was just meeting other survivors like me who also just wanted a hug, but all we knew was how to be, it was through sex.
Right.
So learning to forgive on that, and I don't need to, I can just be, I have a lot of female friends and I'm just happy to be with people.
Yeah.
The other thing was, I told you about the bullies thing. I eventually learned to fight, and really well. And that got me into a lot of trouble because, they weren't nice people, but that still didn't give me the right to be the equalizer, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I would do. I'd stick up for others, but I'd always take it to another level. So I didn't want to go to jail because I'm a musician. I wanted to be creative. So going into the martial arts and hearing my sensei say, starting at the beginning of the class and at the end, if it's not life-threatening, walk away. And in my head, I'm saying, that's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm not saying that, but I'm thinking it. But I swear to you, within 2 or 3 months, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. And so that was helpful for me. If it's not life threatening, walk away.
Well, that's so funny, okay, because we're going down this kind of similar path, right? And so I'm sitting there in the martial arts class, Kung Fu, and they're teaching us this technique, right? And the Sifu who's going down, he's doing this technique, and I'm watching. And so then he comes up to me, and then I block it, and I hit him. And he's like, what are you doing? That's not the technique. I'm like, look, I just watch you hit all those other people all the way down here, and I was not going to sit there. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to let you hit me. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
And then I remember, because the guy who taught us, he was great, and he was many degrees black belt, just a really nice guy. And he was exploded. You can just tell the power in him, but he was doing strangle, and he couldn't strangle it because I learned this a little because my old man used to strangle me.
Yeah.
So you learn it was just instinctive. So as I was already turning that, and that was a horrible thing to learn as a little boy. But not being able to breathe is a very scary thing.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
So I always ask guys this question. So what do you wish, I'm going to say, that someone had told you 20 or 30 years ago when going through this process?
Let's see. If we could go back 30, that would have been...
or however far you want to go back.
Yeah, maybe a little bit because... 35 years, because eventually I did start hearing people saying, Michael, you need to find someone who can treat you for your trauma and not keep telling you that you're mentally ill.
Yeah.
To learn to get treatment for the trauma. So I wish I had listened to someone, because there were people in my life would say something, because they'd say, Michael, you're a really good guy, but you're always on edge. I like being with you, but it's like you're ready to explode any moment.
Yeah.
I didn't, but I was coiled. So I wish that had happened, but I wish that I would have listened. Because my high school girlfriend shared something that she felt, because she could see, and you're a good guy, and I want nothing to do with going to see someone to resolve my stuff. Thomas, I was just as guilty as so many. I thought it's in the past, it's behind me, forget about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If someone wise that I would respect, because I do, I respect a lot of people, is if they had sat me down and said, this is what's going on, the trauma is impacting you, and if they could point out just even 3 things, then I do think I don't have to agree with someone,
right?
But I tell you, even in a discussion, I go away later and I think about what people have said to me, and I will change my thoughts on things.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn, I can be tunnel vision, but if someone raises different points later on, I'll change my mind on stuff. I do listen. So that would have been the one, is the trauma. So I could have addressed it earlier.
Yeah.
And I think people were trying to say that to me in the 80s, Thomas, when I was attending adult children of alcoholics meetings. But I wasn't hearing it, because I just wanted to hear how to deal with, growing up in an alcoholic home. And I'm thinking, my life is good. I got a successful business. I'm happily married.
Right.
But they were seeing things or hearing when I'd share a little bit. So those people were in my life, Thomas, but I wasn't ready to listen.
Yeah. When did you run into Dr. David Lesak?
Oh, boy. Years ago, but this is cool, because we enter the field, we're advocates. You're an advocate in your own way with what you do and everything. I was learning everything I could about trauma and abuse. And so I started reading things that he had written, was becoming aware of them because, him, the people in Male Survivor and all the other, and then later on 1 and 6, they were all like, they were my gurus. So
Yeah.
I was aware of them. I don't live in Boston anymore. I'm in New Hampshire, but I'm just outside of there. And that's where he's based. So
Yeah.
I was seeing his work. So I was always aware of him, but I didn't know him. And then when the bristlecone thing came to pass, he came up to my house here where I live, and he was the most gracious
Yeah.
gentleman. And he came up with his partner and did the pictures, took my story. We're outside. He came inside, and that's when I first got to meet him in person.
Yeah.
And he's just a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
Doing incredible things. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got to meet him. And I did a male. I performed and presented at a Male Survivor conference years ago in Minneapolis. And I was invited out with, there was 7 or 8 of them. And again, the psychologists, psychiatrists, I'm forgetting his name, who wrote Victims No Longer. All these,
Lou.
and then the other guy, gosh, I'm drawing it. But all these people that I looked up to like rock stars.
Yeah.
I'm going out to dinner with them.
Yeah.
Because they looked at me as the musician. I was the rock star, and I'm like in awe of, because I was reading their books, their papers they published as professors or whatever. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. David always wanted to see if he could get Bruce Springsteen to come and perform at one of the things.
That would have been nice.
Yeah. Never got it, but yeah, he and I hang out every Thanksgiving. So I go to New Mexico and.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. We just hang out for a week. So.
Oh, very nice. Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I think the world of him.
So tell us about your book, The Lunchbox Theory.
Okay. It's been a work in progress, I would say, over the last 10 years. And in the last 3 years, I finally set my mind to do it, that I'm going to do this. So I actually stopped chasing, gigs, presentations, etc., so I could focus on it, because I'm sort of semi-retired. But I would still take work if people emailed me or called me to do something. But I needed to focus on this. So the last 3 years, and I did it. And I wrote it, and a publisher loved what I was doing, picked it up, and I've always liked working close and local. This publishing company has been around for several decades, and friends of mine who I looked to, they were professional writers in their younger days. They knew of it, and they said they always put out quality work. So when the publisher read my first few drafts, said I'd love to work with this, I was like, oh, maybe I have something here.
Yeah.
So it's published. I'm getting some great reviews and comments from people. It's a whole new learning curve, promoting and marketing the book, and that's as hard. That's harder than writing the book.
Yeah.
But I'm okay. So anytime I sell a book, I'm excited. It's like when I would be pushing my music CDs, and I'll share one thing. I did this library event about a month ago. The few weeks before, I had presented at the library, and so there were people in attendance. Some bought the book, but the library bought the book to stock on their shelves. And then they asked me to come back, and when I perform, and they were having several authors, people could just come. And I'm up there because it's a big old, it used to be a big old mansion, whatever, now it's a library. And I'm playing, and I got my books for sale. And I see someone come out there, Thomas, with my book. They were checking it out of the library.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, this doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Oh.
So I just keep chipping away and finding ways to promote and market it, because I share what I went through, but the key to it was to show that there's hope, healing, and help. And I share a lot of resources, and I'm very grateful. At the epilogue is what David Lesak had said about me years ago in a training. So that's at the end of the book. So I'm like, wow. And I asked his permission. He was on. He said, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but it's to show and to share with people. I just met with someone the other day who's a director of an organization that helps prevention and everything. And she used to be a social worker helping abused kids in the families and all that. She goes, your book should be required reading for all social workers, people working with children, law enforcement, et cetera, so forth. Someone to say that, that's huge. And I'm getting that from other people. So I got to think of a way, how can I pitch that to people? Because obviously there's a lot of books. But this woman said to me when she went to school, back then, A Child Called It was the book that they were to read. She goes, your book is that book now, but you've taken it to a whole new level. So that's some high praise. It's hard for me to push about myself but people are praising, and I'm getting really great reviews and comments about the book. So
now where can the audience, can they order? Was it Amazon or?
It is listed at Amazon. It's listed because being with a publisher, I have a distributor, Casemate, but Amazon does sell the book.
Okay, this is what I asked. What gets you the most money? I'm just going to be honest, because
if people order it from me,
okay,
from my web, if they order it from me, but I don't have a problem if they buy it wherever they buy it from their bookstore, Barnes and Noble. People have bought it from Barnes and Noble. I think as much as I've shared with people, I have a distributor, you can buy it directly from me. Still, most people buy at Amazon because, they get free shipping, the points, whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So,
I'm kind of trying to moving myself away from Amazon, just whatever, some of the political stuff, but I'm just trying to support more local mom and pops, whatever type deal, right? So if you get a better return from us ordering for you, then I'm going to tell people to go to your website and order it. That's the reason I'm asking.
Yeah, go to my website. They can write to me and order it. And there's also a link that will take them directly to Casemate, the distributor, and they can get it directly from Casemate. Granted, they're still getting their cut, but I'm going to get a better piece of the action.
Right.
I'm going to get a better return if they're ordering directly. And I would prefer if they'd order it from Casemate, because then they're going to want to keep me around and keep pitching my book.
Yeah.
And also at Casemate, there's links for the Kindle ebook, the Barnes and Noble version, and I think it's Kobo. So it is out on ebook form as well. So my website, mskinnermusic.com. That's
okay. I'll make sure to drop that in the link.
Thank you
for the podcast. All right. So before we wrap up, what's one thing that you just want to share with other survivors out there? Maybe ray of hope, whatever, or that you want a BMW too?
No, I understand. Circle back to the BMW. I understand as best I can. Healing from this is hard. And everybody's journey is different, but we can borrow ideas, steal from others and different things, but still it's our own individual journey. But you can do it. And I truly feel we're all capable of thriving. And I feel that folks that are listening, why? Because you deserve it. You're worth it. You are worth thriving and enjoying life. Hearing you and I, Thomas, we've gone through hell and then some, right? But we're smiling, we're laughing, we have jokes, that we make light of things, and yet we still understand there was darkness. We're not dismissing that, but gosh, you just feel 10 pounds lighter. So find that which is going to help you, obviously at your website, through mine, all the other websites. There's a lot of great ways, but you deserve it. You're worth it. So please do the work. It's hard, but darn it, it's worth it.
Yeah. No.
And as a BMW, I don't own a BMW. I have Ford Fusion, but my girlfriend has a BMW.
Oh, really? I had mine for maybe a couple of years, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the maintenance was so expensive. This was like in the 2000s. I'm like, okay, I love the rack and pinion steering, hairpin turns on it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. This just costs too much to upkeep. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on, the podcast here and just sharing. And let's keep in touch. Like I said, I would love to, when we get to some more workshops, to have you come, maybe do some presenting, those different type of things. And even just, there's just something about being among us, right? When we're there talking, and it's just a great weekend. And I enjoy it. That's part of my healing too. Even though, you're helping other people, you have an opportunity, also to work through things. And so that's what I enjoy about it the most. Yeah. So it'd be great to.
And I would put in my contract, right? You got to have sourdough bread.
You got sourdough bread. Yeah. Yeah. No, but do you like yours like super sour or medium or?
Just, oh boy, I've never whatever you make, I'd be happy with.
Yeah. Cause like there's a certain thing like once you pass, so most people, they're like the 24 hours of fermentation is good, right? So it's not too, but then there are some people that like, the super sour, make your mouth pucker, whatever type deal. But the butter kind of covers up.
Right. That's true.
All right. Well, Michael, until next time, continue to have a great life. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you again.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. You take care.
Too. All right, everybody. So that's a kind of wrap up for our show today, which is going to be dropping here just in a few seconds. But once again, you guys know me, always trying to create a safe space. And I say this to you, just realize that the person on the other end of this microphone really cares about you and loves you. And I know that's a hard word for us as survivors, that L word to use, because it has so many different meanings for us. But it just means that, there's someone out there who is willing to be there for you. So if you need to send those emails, if that's your first contact, that's great. Just listening to the voice. But, I always encourage you, you got to do something, right? So whatever that next step is, I want you to take that next step. All right, guys, until our next podcast, be safe.